It's the final day of a high school sophomore year. A classmate takes a full swing with a wooden baseball bat. The grip slips. The bat sails through the air and strikes a 15-year-old boy directly between the eyes. The force of the collision crushes his nose into a distorted U-shape. It shatters both eye sockets. Soft brain tissue slams against the inside of his skull, triggering a massive, immediate surge of swelling. Within hours, his body shuts down. He struggles to swallow, suffers a series of post-traumatic seizures, and then simply stops breathing. Doctors realize they are unequipped to save him, order a helicopter to a larger hospital, and place him in a medically induced coma on a ventilator. He had spent his childhood preparing to play professional baseball, exactly like his father. In a fraction of a second, that trajectory was erased. He was no longer an athlete chasing a draft pick. He was a trauma patient fighting to survive. Months later, the coma and the surgeries are over, but the physical deficit is staggering. Dealing with double vision and lingering motor issues, he attends physical therapy just to practice placing one foot in front of the other, trying to walk a straight line across a gym floor. A year after the accident, he finally returns to the baseball field. He has played since he was 4 years old, pouring thousands of hours into the sport. But when the season starts, he is the only junior cut from the varsity team. There is a popular cultural narrative that surviving a brutal tragedy automatically guarantees a triumphant return. He quickly realizes that isn't true. No sudden burst of inspiration is going to repair his shattered skill set, and no coach is going to put him on the field out of pity. This chart shows the valley of disappointment, the gap between the linear progress we expect and the flatlined reality of early efforts. Despite massive emotional effort, he saw zero results. Without a different approach, he would remain trapped here at the bottom. 2 years post-injury, he starts college at Denison University. Recognizing that grand, sweeping efforts hadn't worked, he abandons the pressure to make massive leaps. Instead of obsessing over the distant goal of becoming an elite athlete again, he takes absolute control over the smallest, most unglamorous units of his day. While his peers stay up late into the night, he builds a strict habit of burning to bed early. His traumatized brain requires prioritizing physical recovery above all else. He makes a point to keep his dorm room meticulously neat. In a life feeling chaotic and entirely out of his control for years, organizing his immediate environment provides a tiny, reliable sense of order. He implements a rigorous, highly repetitive schedule of weightlifting. Over the next few years, this quiet, consistent effort bulks his 6'4" frame from a featherweight 170 to a lean 200 pounds. Rather than relying on frantic cram sessions, he establishes bite-sized daily study habits. Reviewing material in small increments requires far less total effort, but yields steady academic gains. On their own, going to sleep early or picking up a dorm room felt entirely insignificant. They weren't headline-worthy victories, but layered on top of one another, they formed an unshakable architecture for his recovery. There is a psychological mechanism at work here. Every time you complete a small, repeated action, you aren't simply checking off a task. You are casting a vote for your identity. You are proving to yourself that you are the type of person who consistently shows up. This chart illustrates continuous 1% improvement. At the starting point, getting 1% better or worse each day looks identical, but over time, those choices compound. Improving 1% daily for a year creates an exponential gap between success and failure. His eventual return to form did not rely on a bottomless reserve of willpower. It was driven by a mechanical, emotionless system of compounding small wins that made it increasingly difficult to fail. 6 years after the helicopter ride, the seizures, and the coma, his collegiate career concludes in a very different state than it began. He earns a starting role on the pitching staff, is voted team captain, and named top male athlete. He's selected for the academic All-America team, sets 8 school records, and is awarded the university's highest academic honor, the President's Medal. The student was James Clear. Years later, he would translate this exact methodology into Atomic Habits, a definitive framework for human behavior and improvement. If you look closely at his timeline, you won't find a singular heroic moment or an overnight success. His extraordinary results were purely the byproduct of mastering the mundane. We all face severe setbacks. Injuries, career failures, and traumatic interruptions are a universal part of the human experience. In the face of that adversity, we do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. The long-term trajectory of a life is rarely determined by the massive trauma that knocks us to the floor. It is determined by the quality of the tiny, unrelenting habits we use to build ourselves back up. Fulfilling your potential is not a prize reserved for the uniquely talented or the remarkably lucky. It is accessible to anyone willing to commit to the quiet, unglamorous consistency of tiny changes.